It was a morning like no other at Kensington Palace. The air was crisp, almost electric, and yet there was a tension lingering that could be felt throughout the grand corridors of the residence. Inside one of the sunlit rooms, Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, sat quietly, her hands folded over her lap, her eyes distant yet focused. The world knew her as the poised, elegant figure who had graced countless public appearances, who had smiled flawlessly at millions of cameras, and who had balanced royal duties with an air of effortless composure. But what the world did not know, what the media could never capture in a single photograph, was the storm brewing within her, the private turmoil that had brought her to a decision that would shock the United Kingdom and ripple across the globe. The shocking truth, whispered among palace aides and circulating through hushed conversations, was simple yet revolutionary. Kate Middleton was choosing her children over the monarchy. "I want my children to have a normal life," she had reportedly declared, words that echoed like a seismic tremor through the foundations of centuries-old traditions. It was not just a statement. It was a declaration of war against the rigid structures that had defined her life, a quiet rebellion rooted in love and protection for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. To fully understand the gravity of her decision, one must step into her shoes. Imagine being constantly scrutinized, every smile, every gesture, every word dissected in newspapers and online forums. Imagine having your every action measured against centuries of royal precedent, knowing that any misstep could spark public outrage or fuel endless speculation. And then imagine trying to raise 3 young children in the midst of that scrutiny, children who, despite their royal lineage, deserve the innocence of playgrounds, scraped knees, and bedtime stories without the glare of 100 lenses. This was Kate's daily reality, a reality that weighed heavily on her, day after day. From the outside, it appeared that she had everything one could desire: status, influence, and access to the rarefied air of royalty. But those who have lived within the palace walls will tell you that it is a gilded cage, beautiful to behold, but confining in its expectations. Kate had watched other members of the family, including those who had come before her, struggle with the balance between duty and personal happiness. Some had succumbed to the pressures, others had quietly retreated, but few had dared to confront the system so directly. And now, Kate was poised to do just that. The seeds of her decision, insiders claim, had been planted over years of careful observation and personal reflection. Late nights spent reading to her children, moments of quiet after public events, and private conversations with trusted confidants all contributed to a growing realization. The royal system, with all its pomp and tradition, was not designed for the nurturing of young children. It was structured for ceremony, spectacle, and duty, not the quiet, messy, unpredictable joys of childhood. And Kate, in her role as mother, could no longer ignore this reality. Her decision did not come lightly. It was informed by a careful weighing of consequences, a consideration of both public reaction and familial responsibility. She knew that stepping back would ignite debate, speculation, and, undoubtedly, criticism. The press would dissect her every move. Commentators would question her loyalty, and loyalists within the palace would view her choice as a challenge to the very institution they had sworn to uphold. Yet, despite the potential fallout, Kate remained steadfast. Her children's well-being, their chance to experience a childhood free from relentless scrutiny, outweighed any obligation to tradition. In the days leading up to her public declaration, the palace had been a flurry of activity. Aides whispered in corridors, private rooms were booked for emergency discussions, and senior royals convened behind closed doors to assess the potential impact. Rumors swirled, some hinting at dissent among the inner circle, others speculating about the broader implications for succession and public perception. It was clear that Kate's choice would not be confined to her immediate family. It had the potential to influence the monarchy as a whole. Publicly, Kate had always been seen as the embodiment of grace under pressure. Her appearances were meticulously planned, her wardrobe choices celebrated, and her interactions with the public widely admired. But behind the curated images, she carried the weight of unspoken fears and unarticulated concerns. The decision to prioritize her children over her royal duties was not a rejection of her role. It was a redefinition of what that role could mean. She was asserting that the crown, while significant, could never supersede the fundamental responsibilities of motherhood. The reaction to her announcement, even before it became public, was palpable. Within the palace, a mixture of admiration and apprehension took hold. Some saw her decision as courageous, a testament to the power of love and family over protocol. Others viewed it as disruptive, a challenge to the careful choreography that had long governed royal life. Yet, for Kate, the calculation was straightforward. The risk of criticism was far less consequential than the cost of denying her children a semblance of normalcy. For the wider public, the statement was seismic. Media outlets across the United Kingdom scrambled to interpret its meaning, pundits debated the implications, and social media erupted with reactions ranging from support to incredulity. Parents everywhere resonated with her sentiment, understanding instinctively the desire to shield one's children from harm, even if that harm came from fame, expectation, or tradition. And yet, there was also a sense of disbelief. A member of the royal family, traditionally bound by duty and ceremony, openly prioritizing motherhood over monarchy was unprecedented. As the story began to unfold, insiders shared details of Kate's personal reflections, revealing a woman who had grappled with guilt, fear, and hope. She had questioned herself endlessly. Was she abandoning her duty? Would history judge her harshly? Could she protect her children without sacrificing her identity as a duchess? These internal debates were intense, private, and rarely glimpsed by the public eye. Yet, they shaped every step of her decision-making process, leading to the defining moment that would capture the nation's attention. The declaration itself, though simple in its wording, carried monumental weight. "I want my children to have a normal life," she had said, a phrase that resonated far beyond the palace walls. In those 7 words, Kate had encapsulated the universal desire of parents everywhere, while simultaneously challenging centuries of expectation and tradition. The ripple effect was immediate. Palace staff speculated on succession impacts, political commentators weighed in on constitutional implications, and the public debated whether the monarchy could withstand such a humanizing act of defiance. Yet, as the shockwaves spread, the most compelling narrative remained rooted in the personal. A mother, confronting the extraordinary pressures of royal life, choosing the well-being of her children over the weight of history. It was a story of courage, love, and quiet rebellion, one that transcended the trappings of royalty and spoke to the fundamental truths of family. And as Kate prepared to implement her decision, moving her children toward a life less constrained by protocol, the palace braced itself for the fallout. Would her choice inspire reform within the monarchy? Would it provoke resentment, division, or admiration? And most importantly, how would George, Charlotte, and Louis navigate the uncharted waters of a childhood balanced between tradition and normalcy?